Coordinating your investment and tax planning approach makes sense because taxes aren't just something that happened in April, right? Every decision we make throughout the year, whether it's investing, what to invest in, what to buy, what to sell, every decision we make has tax implications. And we want to make sure that those are coordinated all year long and not just come as a surprise when we do the tax return later. One of the challenges that you have when you have different advisors doing those things is you end up with surprise taxes because the wealth advisor that you have may not have talked to the accountant, may not know your whole tax situation. So you may get a surprise in April of what taxes you owe. To some extent, there's just not a coordination of which investments to hold in which accounts, which can add a lot of after-tax return over time if done properly. And most importantly, if you have two different advisors, you're stuck in the middle trying to coordinate them, trying to make sure nobody misses anything, sending emails back and forth, just making sure that nothing gets missed. So from our perspective, having one team that spends the year working together on your specific situation, we know the ins and outs of your particular tax life, that can not only reduce your stress now and at tax time, but it can also add to significant after-tax return over time and can give you a much better experience. We believe it strongly enough that our entire firm is based around it. So all of our clients, we try to coordinate the taxes, the investments. Every decision we make, we think about the tax impact before we make it. It's a core philosophy of our firm and has been since we started 40 years ago. When thinking about which investment decisions impact your taxes the most, there's four key areas that we really like to look at. One is where you hold the different types of investments. Different accounts have different tax rules. So a taxable brokerage account is different from an IRA, is different from a Roth IRA. They don't behave the same when it comes to taxes. So putting the right investments in the right type of account can have a huge impact on your after-tax return later. So looking at that's very important. The second one is which types of investments you use. So mutual funds and exchange-traded funds, performance-wise, can look the same, but from a tax perspective can be very different. So in a taxable account, that can make a big difference. In a retirement account, it doesn't. So understanding which types of accounts you have, which types of investments go best in those accounts can make a big difference. The third is when you decide to sell or rebalance or change your investments entirely. In taxable accounts, this is hugely important. When to take certain gains, which years in which to take those gains, what your tax impact might be. In retirement accounts, not as important, but taxable accounts, this is a big deal. Fourth and final is if you have any sort of equity compensation, like restricted stock, for example, when that vests, when you get it, it can have a huge impact on your taxes. Typically, your employer will withhold some of those taxes, but most times it's not going to be enough just because of the IRS rules and how they do it. So understanding how your equity compensation works, what those RSUs look like, and what impact they're going to have on your taxes down the road is how you avoid the surprises in April when somebody has to tell you that you owe a lot of money on what you thought was taxes that were already taken care of. So the goal is to understand how the investments and the taxes work together so that when April comes around, you know exactly what it's going to look like and you're not surprised by what that tax return looks like. When thinking about the tax planning decisions that affect your investments the most, a lot of the times people focus solely on the rate of return on the investment portfolio itself and not enough on what the actual take-home after-tax rate of return is, which is really what you want to focus on because that's what you've actually made. For us, there's 5 things that come to mind. The first one is timing, right? When you sell, when you take certain amounts of income, taking them in the right years, taking them in the right time has a huge impact on what your after-tax return might be. Prime example, capital gain decisions, when to sell, when to rebalance. A lot of times people do this either accidentally when they think about it, when the market happens to be up or down, they do it out of fear because the market's down or something like that without really thinking about how it impacts the taxes in their tax return. Another one is tax loss harvesting. In the right years, tax loss harvesting can be a great tool. It can save you a lot of taxes. If you do it without a plan, it can sometimes not give you the benefit that you think it's giving you, and maybe you would have made a different decision had you thought more about it. Another one, a big one, is net investment income tax. So a lot of people don't even know this tax exists. It's for people in slightly higher tax brackets. Essentially, you can end up costing yourself taxes by taking capital gains in a year in which you have high income, when you might have been able to save that tax money just by waiting a few more months and getting into another year when you might have lower income. So understanding how these different taxes work together can be a huge impact to the after-tax return. Another huge one, Roth conversions. So Roth conversions, you can convert some of your IRA money into Roth money and save taxes down the road. In certain years, that makes a lot of sense, right? In years in which you have a very low income, you can do it with little or no tax and reap the benefits later. or in years in which the market's down significantly. If you convert the Roth money when the market's down, the recovery can all be tax-free later. If you do it in the wrong years, you can end up costing yourself taxes, paying a higher rate now than you might have paid down the road. So just understanding how all these things work together is really what it's all about, and maximizing that after-tax rate of return. These tax planning approaches don't just impact the tax return, they can also impact what decisions you make at certain times. So just understanding how they impact your decision making and understanding how it impacts your taxes and how those two things work together is really what it's all about.